Imagine for a moment a landscape stripped bare by winter. February 1957. The wind whipping through the desolate, scrubby woods of Fox Chase, Philadelphia. A place that usually offered only the quiet murmur of nature was about to scream with a silence so profound, so utterly chilling, it would forever haunt the conscience of a city. It began with a young man, a college student, checking his muskrat traps. He ventured a little deeper than usual off Susquehanna Road into a thicket that felt isolated, forgotten. And then he saw it. A large cardboard box, the kind a bassinet might come in, discarded among the tangled undergrowth. Innocuous, perhaps, if it weren't for the primal sense that something was terribly wrong. What he discovered within that box would become one of America's most enduring and heartbreaking mysteries. Inside, wrapped in a faded flannel blanket, lay the tiny, still body of a boy. Small, perhaps 4 to 6 years old, his young life clearly one of unimaginable suffering. His blue eyes, wide open, stared blankly into the cold winter sky. His body, shockingly thin, bore the undeniable marks of severe malnutrition and a constellation of bruises. His hair had been crudely, almost savagely cut short, a clumsy attempt to alter his appearance. The discovery sent shockwaves. The peaceful suburban quiet shattered into a cacophony of sirens, flashing lights, and hushed, horrified whispers. Police swarmed, their faces grim, their experience offering no immediate comfort. This wasn't just a crime scene, it was a gaping wound. Who was this child? Why was he here, discarded like refuse? The questions piled up, each one heavier than the last, yet no answers emerged. Every lead was a dead end. Fingerprints were taken, dental records charted, hoping for a match to a missing persons report that simply did not exist. The boy's haunting face was broadcast on every news channel, printed on flyers, even emblazoned on milk cartons. A desperate plea to a nation. Someone, somewhere, had to know this child. But the silence was deafening. No family came forward. He became known in the collective consciousness simply as
Imagine a quiet American town, bathed in the lingering golden light of a summer evening, where life was predictable, safe. Then, in an instant, that tranquility shatters. A horrific discovery, a life extinguished, and with it, the community's innocence. But this isn't just any crime. This is a cold case, born in an era before DNA, before sophisticated databases, an era where sheer grit and intuition were the only tools against a monstrous unknown. We're about to delve into the very first chaotic, desperate moments of a hunt that would stretch across decades, leaving a trail of questions longer than the Mississippi River itself. A wound that would never fully heal. The scene was a nightmare, a landscape of shattered dreams and unanswerable questions. The air hung heavy with a sense of violation, a palpable dread that settled over everything like a shroud. In the mid-20th century, police work relied heavily on methodical, painstaking manual labor. There were no digital forensics, no instant cross-referencing of millions of records. Every clue, every stray fiber, every whispered rumor had to be meticulously cataloged, cross-referenced by hand, a colossal undertaking in a time when technology was primitive. The precinct lights burned through the night, fueled by gallons of stale coffee and the grim determination etched onto the faces of hardened detectives. Officers, many of them veterans of a world war not long past, faced a new kind of enemy, an invisible one.
They swept the area with a fine-tooth comb, not just for physical evidence, but for any flicker of an anomaly in the human landscape. A suspicious stranger, a local with a sudden change in demeanor, a car seen where it shouldn't be, its make and model meticulously noted, then traced by hand through motor vehicle records. They worked tirelessly, driven by a primal urge for justice, for resolution, but often feeling as though they were groping in the deepest, most impenetrable darkness, their progress measured in inches, not miles. The pressure was immense, a crushing weight from the public, from their superiors, but most of all, from the haunted eyes of the victim's family. Consider the state of forensic science in the 1950s. Fingerprinting was established, yes, but often yielded nothing on rough surfaces, or if the perpetrator wore gloves. The latent prints, if found, were photographed, lifted, then compared by eye against a limited pool of known offenders or potential suspects. Ballistics could link a bullet to a gun, but only if that specific gun was ever recovered, a long shot at best. Blood typing was in its infancy, O, A, B, AB, helpful for exclusion, but nowhere near the pinpoint accuracy of DNA profiling we know today. There was no DNA to extract from a single hair, no database to cross-reference with. Hair and fiber analysis?
Yes, they collected it meticulously, placing tiny, fragile strands into cellophane envelopes, hoping against hope. But without sophisticated microscopes or advanced chemical analysis techniques, it was more a curiosity, a tantalizing hint, than a definitive lead. It was a time of observational prowess, of old-school detective intuition, of painstaking grunt work. Imagine the gnawing frustration, seeing these microscopic clues, knowing they held secrets, knowing they could point to a killer, but utterly lacking the scientific power to unlock them. Every fragment, every smudge, every uncertain witness statement was a precious, often baffling, piece of a puzzle with no clear picture on the box, and a crucial piece almost certainly missing. The initial frenzy of activity was immense, almost overwhelming. Thousands upon thousands of man-hours poured into the investigation. Detectives interviewed hundreds, then thousands of people, from the corner store owner to the reclusive artist, from the postman to the town's most respected citizens. Every neighbor, every acquaintance, every transient passing through town was questioned, their alibis scrutinized, their reactions observed. Tips flooded in, a deluge of calls to the station, some genuine, born of fear or civic duty, but most utterly useless, fueled by gossip, mistaken identity, or even malicious intent. Each lead, no matter how remote, had to be followed, diverting precious resources and exhausting already strained personnel.
They pounded pavement, tracing alibis through meticulously kept ledgers, knocking on doors in every working-class neighborhood and every tree-lined suburban street. They built complex physical charts on corkboards, covering entire walls, connecting names with locations, times with possible sightings, trying to weave a tapestry of events from threads that seemed constantly to fray, to vanish into thin air. But with each passing day, the early leads withered. The initial shock gave way to a chilling silence. The hopeful glimmers of progress dissolved into a stark, bleak reality. Dead end after dead end. A car seen speeding away? Generic. A description of a man? Too vague. A potential motive? No discernible connection. The vast machinery of law enforcement was grinding against air, producing nothing. This was a world without internet search engines, without national criminal databases readily accessible at a click. Information traveled by phone call, by teletype, by mail, often taking days or weeks to get from one department to another. Coordinating across state lines was a bureaucratic nightmare, a labyrinth of paperwork and slow communication. Suspect profiles were built on gut instinct, on experience, on psychology still in its formative years, rather than hard data. Without strong physical evidence, investigators were forced to lean heavily on theories, each one a desperate attempt to impose logic on the illogical, to find a narrative in the chaos. Was it a drifter, passing through, striking randomly, leaving no trace but terror?
A jilted lover or a jealous rival, enacting a deeply personal revenge that somehow evaded all scrutiny? Was it a local, hiding in plain sight, living a monstrous double life, expertly concealing their true nature? The town itself became a hotbed of whispers and frantic speculation. Every stranger was eyed with suspicion, every familiar face reevaluated under a harsh, new light. Paranoia, a silent killer in its own right, began to seep into the community, corroding trust and fostering an insidious collective dread. The very fabric of society felt frayed, unsafe. But the theories, though debated endlessly in hushed tones over coffee and in sensational newspaper columns, remained just that, theories. No physical evidence ever definitively linked a suspect to the crime. No credible witness ever emerged with that crucial piece of information, that single thread that could unravel the entire mystery. The exhaustive search for a murder weapon yielded nothing but empty fields and forgotten waterways. The meticulous combing of the crime scene provided only tantalizing, uncooperative fragments that whispered secrets but offered no names. The initial hunt, for all its intensity and human cost, for all the sleepless nights and relentless effort, became a relentless, agonizing descent into a void. Each passing week, then month, solidified the horrifying truth. The trail was growing colder. The labyrinth of mysteries had no exit. The police, for all their unwavering dedication, found themselves trapped in a maze of dead ends. The silence of the unsolved crime echoing louder than any definitive answer. A testament to a killer's cunning or sheer, blind luck. The perpetrator, whoever they were, had vanished, leaving behind not just a terrible tragedy, but an enduring scar on the heart of a nation, an open wound that would fester for generations, demanding closure that would not come for many, many years. The hunt had begun, but the prey remained elusive. Hidden in the shadows of a rapidly changing world, a ghost in the machine of justice.
Imagine a whisper that becomes a roar, echoing not just through a city, but across decades, across generations. A chilling question born from unimaginable tragedy that refused to be silenced by the relentless march of time. For some mysteries, the passage of years only deepens their grip, transforming a horrific event into a haunting national obsession. This was one such case. From the moment the headlines screamed its unspeakable details, America was transfixed. It wasn't just another crime. It was an enigma, a puzzle with missing pieces that seemed to vanish into thin air, leaving behind only shadows and a profound sense of injustice. The very fabric of community felt shaken, as if a fundamental trust had been irrevocably shattered. The initial shock gave way to a persistent, almost desperate need for answers. Who did this? Why? And how could they simply disappear, leaving behind such a gaping wound in the national psyche? It was a question that lingered at dinner tables, in barbershops, whispered in hushed tones across schoolyards. The sheer audacity of the crime
coupled with the baffling lack of immediate leads, propelled it into the realm of legend, a dark, unresolved chapter in America's story. This wasn't just a local tragedy. It was a national scar, a testament to the fact that some wounds bleed for decades. As days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, the initial flurry of intense investigation began to settle into a frustrating, grinding reality. For the men and women tasked with finding the truth, this wasn't just a job. It became a personal crusade, a relentless gnawing at their professional souls. Detectives, often seasoned and hardened, found themselves up against a wall of silence and deception that seemed impenetrable. They chased every lead, interviewed countless witnesses, sifted through mountains of evidence, all while the specter of the unknown perpetrator loomed large. Every dead end was a fresh heartbreak, a reminder of the victim's lingering unanswered call for justice. Years bled into decades, and the original investigators, carrying the weight of the unsolved case like a personal burden, slowly retired, passing the torch to new generations. But the files remained open, thick with theories and dead ends, a constant, silent testament to their unwavering, yet unfulfilled dedication.
Imagine the sleepless nights, the endless rereading of reports, the quiet conversations over cold coffee, all dedicated to a ghost of a case that refused to rest. Their lives, in many ways, became interwoven with the cold facts of the crime, shaped by the frustration of an invisible adversary. The emotional toll was immense, a silent testament to the humanity behind the badge. And yet, the public's fascination never truly waned. It wasn't just morbid curiosity, it was a deeper human need for closure, for order restored. As new technologies emerged, as new generations came of age, the story was retold, re-examined, and reimagined. Documentaries meticulously dissected every detail, pulling forgotten facts from dusty archives. Books delved into the psychological profiles, the historical context, the societal implications of such an enduring mystery. Online forums buzzed with amateur sleuths, their collective minds poring over evidence, offering theories, and keeping the flame of inquiry alive. Every anniversary of the crime saw a fresh surge of interest, a collective sigh of remembrance for the victim, and a renewed call for justice. This continued fascination wasn't just about the what, it was about the why. Why this case? Why such a perfect crime? Why no answers? It spoke to our inherent human desire for narrative completion, for the arc of a story to bend towards resolution even when it resists so stubbornly. This case became a cultural touchstone, a grim reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of everyday life, and a testament to the enduring power of a mystery to captivate and haunt. And through it all, despite the passage of time, despite the fading memories of those who lived through its initial shock, there persisted an unshakable, profound hope. Hope that one day a new piece of evidence, a forgotten witness, a whispered confession would finally shatter the silence. Hope that the tireless efforts of generations of investigators and the unyielding curiosity of the public would ultimately lead to the truth. Because for a nation haunted by a cold case, the only true closure is justice, no matter how many decades it takes to find it.
Imagine a life, a story, reduced to a nameless whisper in the annals of crime, a face without a name, a soul without a history, waiting for decades for someone, anyone, to remember. In the labyrinthine corridors of criminal investigations, some cases, like forgotten echoes, fade into the chilling silence of cold. They become footnotes, spectral remnants of lives abruptly extinguished
their identities shrouded in mystery. For families, the pain is a constant, gnawing ache. For justice, a hollow echo in an empty chamber. But what happens when the official files close, when the trails run dry and the world moves on? Does a life, even one brutally ended, truly deserve to be forgotten? This is where a different breed of hero emerges. Not always in uniform, often retired, yet driven by an unwavering moral compass. They are the guardians of forgotten identities, the unyielding pursuers of truth that time sought to bury. Among the most remarkable of these unsung champions is the Vidocq Society, a clandestine collective of elite forensic experts, former FBI agents, homicide detectives, and psychologists. Picture it, a modern-day Sherlock Holmes club, meeting in a private Philadelphia dining room, poring over cases that have stumped law enforcement for generations. Their motto, Veritas vos liberatit, the truth shall set you free, isn't just a phrase, it's a creed and a relentless promise to the nameless dead. When the Vidocq Society takes on a case, it's not a casual review, it's an excavation. They don't just pick up where others left off, they often dismantle and rebuild, brick by painstaking brick. Imagine seasoned investigators whose careers span decades of crime solving, leaning over yellowed reports, their eyes scanning for a missed detail, a forgotten witness, a new angle. They are detectives with the luxury of hindsight, unburdened by active caseloads, free to chase every phantom lead, no matter how faint. They delve into the minutiae, re-interviewing aging witnesses, even those who initially refused to speak. They re-examine physical evidence long tucked away in police storage with fresh eyes and a wealth of collective experience. It's not just about solving a crime, it's about reclaiming a name, restoring dignity to a life that ended in obscurity. As technology evolved, so too did their arsenal. The advent of DNA analysis, once science fiction, became their most potent weapon.
They'd push for long-shot forensic tests, exhume remains if necessary, all in the hope of extracting a single, microscopic strand of genetic material that could whisper the truth. Then came forensic anthropology and facial reconstruction, breathing life back into skeletal remains, giving form to the nameless. More recently, genetic genealogy, merging DNA with vast public databases, transformed the hunt for unknown identities into a global digital search. These advancements weren't just tools, they were rays of hope, piercing through decades of darkness. But beyond the science and the detective work, there's a profound human element. These guardians aren't motivated by fame or financial reward. Their currency is closure. Their reward, the quiet satisfaction of speaking for those who can no longer speak for themselves. The emotional toll can be immense. Decades of unsolved mysteries, stories of brutal injustice, weigh heavily. Yet they persevere. Why? Because every victim, no matter how long gone, deserves a name, a story, a resolution. They carry the weight of those forgotten lives, understanding that true justice isn't just about catching a perpetrator, it's about honoring the victim, giving them back their identity, their place in history. It's a commitment that transcends mere professional duty. It's a moral imperative. They refuse to let a case die simply because it's old. They are the keepers of cold cases, their dedication a burning flame against the chilling winds of forgetfulness. For every faded photograph, every incomplete police report, there's a Vidocq member or another dedicated cold case investigator poring over it, refusing to give up. They are the persistent voice, the unyielding hand reaching across time to touch a life that was taken too soon, promising that even in death, no one is truly forgotten so long as someone remembers to search.
Their pursuit is a testament to the enduring power of human dedication, a quiet promise whispered to the past. We will not stop. We will not forget. We are the guardians of your identity, and we will find your truth, no matter how long it takes.
For decades, the case of the boy in the box was a cold, impenetrable wall. A child, discarded, nameless. His tiny grave, marked simply America's unknown child, bore silent witness to a truth that eluded generations of investigators. But what if the very silence, the absence of answers, held the key? What if the smallest fragments, invisible to the naked eye, could one day scream a name across the decades? That hope, once a distant dream, began to materialize with the relentless march of forensic science. As the 21st century dawned, a new frontier was opening: forensic genetic genealogy. It wasn't just about matching DNA to a suspect. It was about building entire family trees from the most minute, degraded samples, much like reconstructing an ancient manuscript from scattered, faded pages. The challenge was immense. The boy in the box's remains, discovered in 1957, were old. The DNA, if any remained, would be degraded, fragmented, a whispered secret buried beneath layers of time and decay. Initial attempts to extract usable genetic material from his bones and hair had been disappointing, yielding samples too small, too compromised to be of any real use with the technology of the day. The scientific community, though brilliant, was limited by its own era. But perseverance is the hallmark of justice. Decades passed, but the commitment of the Philadelphia Police Department and the Vidocq Society, a group of elite forensic experts and investigators dedicated to solving cold cases, never wavered. They understood that every technological leap offered a renewed chance. And in the mid-2010s, that leap arrived. Enter the realm of advanced forensic genealogy. This wasn't merely comparing a DNA sample to a criminal database like CODIS. This was something far more intricate, far more revolutionary. This involved taking minuscule, degraded DNA, often from mitochondrial sources, and using it to identify distant relatives through public genealogy databases. Think of it as throwing a net wider than ever before, hoping to catch a thread that leads back to the origin. The critical moment came when investigators, armed with the latest sequencing technologies, revisited the boy's remains.
They focused on mitochondrial DNA, mtDNA, genetic material inherited solely from the mother, more robust and plentiful in degraded samples than nuclear DNA. They also looked for nuclear DNA, nDNA, from other sources, knowing that even trace amounts could be amplified with new techniques. It was a painstaking, almost archaeological process. Each bone fragment, each strand of hair was treated with reverence, a potential witness to a long-forgotten truth. Hours turned into days, days into weeks, as forensic scientists worked with a meticulousness that bordered on obsession. They employed techniques capable of extracting usable DNA from samples so minute, so compromised, they would have been dismissed outright just a few years prior. Imagine trying to piece together a complex jigsaw puzzle with only a handful of faded, damaged pieces, and then having to invent new tools just to manipulate those pieces. That was the scale of the challenge. And then, a whisper. A faint signal from the past. Usable DNA was extracted. It was a victory in itself, a testament to the dedication of the scientists. But extraction was only the first step. The real work, the detective work of the genetic age, was about to begin. The DNA profile, once obtained, was then uploaded to public genealogical databases, the same ones millions of everyday people use to trace their family heritage. This was the revolutionary pivot. Instead of looking for a direct match,
They were looking for cousins, for distant relatives who had voluntarily submitted their own DNA, inadvertently holding a piece of the boy in the box's family puzzle. The process was not instantaneous. It involved building vast family trees, sometimes hundreds or thousands of individuals deep, branching out like an ancient oak. Investigators working alongside genetic genealogists would then meticulously trace those branches backward, looking for common ancestors. They would cross-reference names, dates, locations, public records, obituaries, every scrap of information that could narrow down the possibilities. Picture the scene: a team of dedicated individuals surrounded by screens displaying complex lineage charts, cross-referencing databases, making phone calls to distant relatives who had no idea they held a key to one of America's most enduring mysteries. Each distant cousin identified was a new node, a new branch, bringing them incrementally closer to the boy's true lineage. It was slow, methodical, often frustrating work, filled with dead ends and false leads. But for every dead end, there was a tiny, thrilling breakthrough. And then, after years of this relentless pursuit, a significant breakthrough occurred. The genetic threads began to converge.
A specific branch of the family tree started to solidify. They weren't just finding distant cousins anymore. They were getting closer, identifying second cousins, then first cousins once removed. The whispers of the past were growing louder, transforming into an audible hum of recognition. Finally, after painstaking reconstruction, the genealogical evidence pointed to a specific family line in the Philadelphia area. It led them to living relatives, individuals who were completely unaware of their connection to the tragic boy found so many decades ago. This wasn't just about science, it was about human connection, about uncovering forgotten histories and uniting families across time. The circle was closing. DNA, the silent witness that had laid dormant for nearly 65 years, had finally spoken. It had whispered a name, a lineage, and provided the first true hope of giving America's unknown child his identity back. The genetic breakthrough wasn't just a scientific marvel, it was a testament to the enduring power of hope, the tireless dedication of those who refused to let the past remain buried, and the profound human need for every life to be known. For 65 agonizing years, he was known only as the boy in the box, an unspeakable tragedy frozen in time, a child's life reduced to a haunting enigma found abandoned in a cardboard carton on a desolate road in Fox Chase, Philadelphia. For generations, his innocent face, forever young, stared out from newspaper clippings and police files, a silent plea for identity, for justice, for a name. The sheer persistence of this cold case, the sheer heartbreak of it, etched itself into the very fabric of American true crime. Countless detectives, forensic artists, and dedicated volunteers poured their lives into this one singular mystery, chasing down leads, sifting through shadows, and grappling with the crushing weight of an unknown child's fate. It was a quest that defied logic, outlasted careers, and transcended lifetimes. Could a name, after all this time, truly emerge from the depths of forgotten history? Could the boy in the box finally be unmasked? For decades, every lead hit a wall. Every promising tip dissolved into nothing. The anonymity was brutal, a second death for a child who deserved so much more than a forgotten grave marked only by a case number. But the human spirit, especially when fueled by compassion and an unyielding commitment to truth, possesses an extraordinary tenacity.
And in the digital age, with breakthroughs in genetic science, that tenacity found a new, powerful ally. In 2021, armed with the latest advancements in forensic genetic genealogy, the Philadelphia Police Department and the Vidocq Society, a group of retired investigators and forensic experts dedicated to solving cold cases, made a momentous decision. They exhumed the boy's remains, a solemn, almost sacred act, to extract DNA samples one more time. This wasn't just about collecting data, it was about honoring a promise made to a forgotten child, a promise whispered across decades that his identity would one day be known. This wasn't the traditional DNA analysis focused on a direct match to a suspect or family member in a criminal database. This was a painstaking journey into the sprawling, complex world of public genetic genealogy databases, where millions of individuals have voluntarily uploaded their DNA profiles for ancestral research. It's like searching for a single specific star in an entire galaxy, using the subtle gravitational pulls of distant relatives to guide you. Specialists, including experts from the DNA Doe Project, began the arduous process, building family trees backward through generations, looking for common ancestors, tracing lines forward, all while navigating the privacy concerns and ethical considerations in this groundbreaking science. It was meticulous, slow, often frustrating work, but every tiny connection, every distant cousin identified narrowed the scope, bringing them incrementally closer to the truth. And then, on a day etched into the annals of cold case history, it happened. The painstaking work paid off. Genetic links were established, confirmed, and reconfirmed. The branches of the family tree finally converged on a name, a singular identity that had been hidden for too long. On December 8, 2022, after 65 years of anonymous silence, the Philadelphia Police Department made the long-awaited announcement. The boy in the box had a name. His name was Joseph Augustus Zarelli. The emotional impact of this revelation rippled through the law enforcement community, through the ranks of the Vidocq Society, and across the nation, touching the hearts of countless individuals who had followed this case for a lifetime. For detectives like Bill Fleischer and John E. Doherty, who had dedicated their careers, their very souls to this boy, it was a moment of profound, almost overwhelming closure. Imagine carrying that burden for decades, the face of a child you couldn't identify, haunting your sleep. And then suddenly, the fog lifts. Initial details about Joseph Augustus Zarelli's short life began to emerge, painting a poignant, if still incomplete, picture. Born in 1953, Joseph was approximately 4 years old at the time of his death in 1957. He had a family, a home, a history, however brief and shrouded in mystery. Investigators revealed that his parents were no longer living, and they cautiously confirmed a sibling still alive, though his identity was not publicly disclosed out of respect for privacy. This immediate family connection provided crucial confirmation for the DNA findings, solidifying the identification beyond any doubt. What little information surfaced about Joseph's background indicated a life lived largely in the shadows, far from public view. Details were scarce, carefully guarded by authorities, as the investigation pivoted from identification to understanding the circumstances of his death. But the simple fact that he was not a ghost, not just a tragic symbol, but a real boy named Joseph Augustus Zarelli, transformed the entire narrative. It gave him back his humanity, his place in history, and finally, a voice. The journey to unmask Joseph was a testament to unwavering dedication, a beacon of hope in the often dark world of cold cases. It proved that some mysteries, no matter how old, can still yield their secrets given enough time, enough technology, and enough heart. For decades, he was the boy in the box, a silent, heartbreaking enigma, frozen in time on a desolate Philadelphia roadside. But now, Joseph Augustus Zarelli has a name. And with that name, a new,
more profound question emerges, echoing across 70 years of silence. Who took Joseph's life? This isn't just about identification anymore. It's about the relentless, agonizing hunt for a ghost, a perpetrator who has eluded justice for generations. The whisper of Joseph's name, finally spoken, has not brought full closure, but instead has ignited an even fiercer flame of determination among those dedicated to solving this ultimate cold case. Yet as the calendar pages turn, each tick of the clock further complicates an already monumental task. So how do you solve a murder from a lifetime ago, when the witnesses are gone, the evidence is frail, and the world has spun through countless revolutions since the crime? This is the daunting, deeply human challenge of pursuing justice a lifetime later. Imagine trying to piece together a puzzle where most of the crucial pieces are missing, and the ones you have are faded by time, worn by the hands of forgotten investigators. That's the stark reality of a 60-year-old murder investigation.
The world of 1957 was vastly different. Forensic science, in its infancy, couldn't capture the subtle DNA traces that are commonplace today. Physical evidence, if it even survived the decades, would be degraded, perhaps even unknowingly compromised by early, less sophisticated collection methods. Witnesses, those fleeting shadows of memory, are either gone, their voices forever silenced by time, or their recollections are now clouded, distorted by the passage of decades, a cruel trick of the mind. The original detectives, the ones who walked the precise crime scene, who questioned the first suspects, are long retired or, tragically, have passed on themselves. Their institutional knowledge, their gut feelings, their raw, scribbled notes, once invaluable insights, are now merely whispers in the wind, if they exist at all. So, how do today's cold case detectives approach such a formidable mountain of elapsed time? They begin by meticulously dusting off every old file, every faded report, every photograph. Joseph's newly confirmed identity provides a critical key, allowing them to cross-reference missing person reports, delve into family histories, and trace the lineage of a boy who was once a phantom. Modern DNA techniques, far beyond anything conceivable in the 1950s, become their most powerful weapon. Even microscopic touch DNA, if it can be found on preserved clothing or artifacts, could potentially link Joseph to an unknown individual through advanced genealogical databases. The investigation pivots from who is he to who was around him and who would wish him harm. Early theories, ranging from a transient drifter to a vagrant to even a member of organized crime, now must be reevaluated through the lens of Joseph's true identity. Did he have enemies? Was this a random, senseless act? Or, more chillingly, was it someone he knew? Someone within his own fragile orbit? The impossibility of directly interrogating a perpetrator from so long ago means investigators must rely heavily on painstakingly reconstructed circumstantial evidence, piecing together fragments of a forgotten past to paint a clearer picture.
But while the scientific and investigative challenges are immense, the human element, as always, remains at the core of this harrowing tale. For Joseph's surviving family, the siblings who lived their lives never knowing the fate of their lost brother, the cousins who grew up with a silent space at the family table, the revelation of his identity must have been a seismic, emotionally shattering event. Imagine the unbearable weight of decades of unanswered questions, of a missing child, a brother existing only as an aching void in family history. Then, a name, a face, a profound connection suddenly floods that void, bringing both immense relief and profound sorrow. Yet with this profound step towards understanding comes a fresh, undeniable wave of pain. The identification, while a profound act of closure, simultaneously reopens the raw wound of loss, a wound that never truly healed but merely scabbed over with the passage of time. For them, The hunger for justice isn't just an abstract concept, it's a deeply personal ancestral quest. They carry the torch of Joseph's memory, their hope now reignited that the monster who stole him away might still be revealed, even if only through historical record, a silent verdict rendered by history itself. So, what does justice truly look like when the perpetrator is likely long deceased, lost to the same passage of time that veiled Joseph's identity? Is it about an arrest, or is it about finally knowing the truth? For the dedicated cold case detectives and the steadfast family, justice becomes a profound act of remembrance. It's about giving Joseph back his dignity, his story, and finally, his peace. It's about acknowledging that no life, especially that of an innocent child, should be left without the pursuit of accountability. Their perseverance is a testament to the unwavering moral imperative that some cases, some lives, simply cannot be forgotten. The hunt continues, not for retribution in a courtroom, but for the profound truth, ensuring that Joseph Augustus Zarelli, once the nameless boy, is finally given the full measure of his identity and the lasting echo of justice he so profoundly deserves.
For nearly 7 decades, he was a ghost, a haunting whisper on the winds of Philadelphia, the boy in the box, an unspeakable tragedy, an enduring enigma that clawed at the conscience of a nation. But then, in late 2022, a miracle forged from relentless dedication and scientific marvel, a name: Joseph Augustus Zarelli. Just 4 words that shattered the silence of decades, replacing anonymity with identity and despair with an astonishing, profound sense of closure. This wasn't merely the resolution of an individual case. It was a seismic shift in the landscape of cold case investigations worldwide. Joseph's identification, achieved through cutting-edge genetic genealogy and the unwavering commitment of generations of detectives and volunteers, sent ripples of hope across the globe. For every family tormented by the agonizing unknown, for every lost child whose story ended in darkness, Joseph's breakthrough illuminates a path forward. It screams a powerful truth: no victim is ever truly forgotten. No matter how old the file, how cold the trail, or how faint the echoes of a life once lived, the relentless pursuit of truth can, and often does, prevail. This is the heart of human perseverance, the refusal to surrender to the passage of time or the veil of mystery. Think of the countless cold case files gathering dust in police departments, each representing a life cut short, a family torn apart, a murderer walking free. Joseph Augustus Zarelli's identification breathes new life into every single one of them. It provides tangible evidence that DNA, combined with the power of familial connections and an unyielding will to know, can crack open even the most impenetrable mysteries.
It's a testament to the dedicated, often unsung heroes, the forensic scientists who meticulously sift through ancient evidence, the genealogists who painstakingly map out family trees, the detectives who carry the weight of these unsolved cases in their hearts for decades. Their tireless work, fueled by an intrinsic belief in justice, is what makes these breakthroughs possible. This remarkable achievement also serves as a poignant reminder of our collective responsibility. In an age of advanced technology, the potential to bring peace to grieving families is greater than ever before. Joseph's story is a clarion call, urging communities, law enforcement, and scientific minds to collaborate, to share resources, and to never give up on those who have been silenced. His case isn't just a historical footnote, it's a living, breathing testament to what can be achieved when humanity unites against injustice. And so, as we reflect on the life and the rediscovery of Joseph Augustus Zarelli, we are left with more than just answers. We are left with a powerful legacy of hope. He is no longer just the boy in the box, a symbol of tragedy. He is Joseph, a child remembered, a life honored, and a beacon for every cold case that still yearns for the light of truth. His story whispers across the years, echoing the enduring power of perseverance and the profound truth that sometimes, even after 70 years, hope finds a way home. His quiet existence, once shrouded in shadow, now casts a long, bright beam of possibility across the future of unsolved mysteries. And in that light, countless others may finally find their names and their peace.